When you begin a road trip with almonds and a grapefruit, what could possibly go wrong? So now you guys know I've been crushing on West Virginia all year. I mean, I love this place. And so we're back out here again, but this time we're gonna do some stargazing. We're finding one of the local mountaintops here. Actually, we're trying to determine that now. Which mountaintop are we gonna run to do some stargazing tonight? And so we're really excited. I've actually got a way to be able to bring you guys some of the images that we're getting with our telescope because Carolyn's here, because she makes everything better. I always love it when Carolyn's here. It's better.
Hi.
Yes, we've spent a lot of time in West Virginia this year, and trust me when I say we haven't even scratched the surface on the mysterious and amazing wonders of the mountain state. One of my favorite things about West Virginia is the abundance of these mountain wilderness backroads leading to amazing scenic views and remote historical destinations. Our adventure begins at one such destination, Bickle Knob, and the Bickle Knob Observation Tower. In case you didn't know it, back in the 1930s and 1940s, Franklin Roosevelt's Civilian Conservation Corps, or the CCC, built thousands of observation towers all over the Appalachian Mountains to scan hundreds of thousands of acres for plumes of smoke. These towers were built as an early warning system for forest fires, and it was no easy task. This was also one of the most practical ways to put people back to work during the Great Depression. At one point in West Virginia alone, 132 observation towers were in operation. 50 or so years later, state and federal land managers put fire spotters in airplanes to make observation cheaper and more efficient. These days, there are about 20 fire towers still standing in West Virginia. So, you want to visit these old fire observation towers before they're gone. Some of these fire towers are popular hiking destinations. Bickle Knob Observation Tower in Monongahela National Forest was built in 1933, and it's still standing, and it's not too hard to access. It's approximately 10 miles northeast of Elkins, West Virginia on Forest Road 91, and it's just outside Otter Creek Wilderness and Stewart Recreation Area. From the parking lot, it's only about a 5-minute walk.
So first, a nice stop here at Bickle Knob in West Virginia. Really, really beautiful place. There's a lot of stairs here, a whole lot of stairs. Pretty impressive. Once you get up here, the view is absolutely fantastic. And from the looks of it, it's like a local hotspot. Like if you're wanting to get your mountain fix on and you're from the local area, this is where you want to go to avoid the crowds over at Spruce Knob and other kind of popular destinations in West Virginia or this part of West Virginia. And so this really is a cool place. Even if you're not local like me and you're just out here to stargaze or to kind of explore a little bit, it's just an amazing look off. It may be the best fire tower look off that I've seen in quite some time, and I'm turning into somewhat of an expert when it comes to fire tower overlooks or look offs.
The elevation at Bickle Knob is 4,003 feet. And let's talk about elevation for just a second. Even though I've mentioned this in a few other videos, it's worth mentioning again because it's the kind of information that we don't really think about, but it's pretty important. West Virginia is the only state that falls entirely in the Appalachian Mountains. Of all the states east of Mississippi, West Virginia has the highest average elevation at 1,654 feet. There's no such thing as going to the mountains when you're in West Virginia because you're already there no matter where you are. Even though Spruce Knob in West Virginia is the highest point in the Allegheny Mountains, when it comes to the Greater Appalachian Mountains, West Virginia isn't really known for having the highest peaks when compared to North Carolina or even Tennessee. And despite that, there are numerous mountains over 4,500 feet in West Virginia. This, along with the average elevation, has a tremendous effect on West Virginia's climate. The average temperature in West Virginia is 54 degrees Fahrenheit, while its neighbor to the east, Virginia, averages 61 degrees Fahrenheit, and its neighbor to the west, Ohio, averages 63 degrees Fahrenheit. Naturally, this doesn't tell the whole story when it comes to comparing comparing climate for 3 different states. In fact, quoting averages like this can be a little misleading, because when it comes to climate, there's a whole lot to take into consideration. Not to labor the point, but Virginia is on the coast, and that affects Virginia's climate, and while Ohio sees its fair share of harsh winters, it also gets quite hot in the Buckeye State. And West Virginia, having an average elevation of over 1,600 feet, well, that matters. Call me crazy, but I would have never guessed that, on average, West Virginia is 10 degrees cooler than Ohio. And you always want to take this into consideration when planning your visits to West Virginia. You always want to bring a sweater and maybe a coat. When Carolyn and I left Harrisonburg, Virginia, and crossed over into the state of West Virginia, it was 85 degrees. When we arrived at Bickle Knob, it was 62 degrees. And that night, it dropped down to 55 degrees. In the fall, winter, spring, and even early summer, this is a really big deal when planning hiking and other outdoor adventures. So you want to keep this in mind.
Now, at this elevation, it's about 62, 63 degrees. It's a little chilly when the wind blows, but you're at a high elevation, and we're headed towards Barton Knob. We're hoping to make it there by sunset, set up the telescope real quick right at sunset, and capture some images of maybe Jupiter and Saturn. That would be great, and that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that there's a place that gives us sort of the opportunity. Okay, so funny story about Barton Knob and why I'm wearing a different shirt now. Because the first part of this video is from last week, and we didn't get to get the telescope out because it rains a lot in West Virginia, and it's 2020, so if you make plans, you can just forget them. It's just not gonna happen. Regardless, we came back to Barton Knob to finish what we started, because you should never give up, but it's awesome here. This is just an amazing place. I mean, yeah, we had to come back and check it out and hike up here to the top. We wanted to get a head start today, though. We wanted to start early, and we did. We left the house, it's, I think, something around 6:30 or something like that. It took us about 2.5 hours to get over here. It's not a fast drive from Harrisonburg, Virginia, where we live. It takes a little time to get over here. I mean, you're only a couple hours or less from Ohio when you're at this part of West Virginia.
Dark in there.
So you know what, in a million years, I never thought that Bickle Knob would actually be a better observation tower, fire observation tower, if you will, than Barton Knob. Barton Knob has a higher elevation, so I figured it would be nicer. I had no idea that you couldn't actually climb to the top of the observation tower at Barton Knob. Oh well, so off we go on Forest Road 237. You know, coal mining has come a long way. I mean, who would have thought that coal mining would have provided such an amazing natural preserve, such as here just off of Barton Knob on this old Forest Road 237, and it's just amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. Yay, coal. You think I should put that in the video? That'd be bad, wouldn't it? Everybody in the world, coal's terrible, coal's terrible. But I like coal. Coal makes energy cheap. Wait, is this still recording? So this is Cheat Summit Fort, also called Fort Milroy. It was constructed by federal troops back in 1861. What I find extremely interesting about this particular spot, according to the information here provided by the National Forest, is that the first snow of the year in 1861 was on August 13th, which just goes to show you how chilly it can get in these here parts in a hurry.
But here's the thing, Barton Knob, or I guess I should say Cheat Mountain, is my new favorite region to explore in West Virginia. Barton Knob is the mountain summit, but there are actually 4 peaks along Cheat Mountain, and all of them are over 4,800 feet in elevation. This region is one of the coldest, snowiest parts of the Appalachian Mountains. A few months ago, Carolyn and I made a video on Snowshoe Ski Resort. I was trying to find a mountain dirt road that connected Snowshoe to this region, a road like this one that followed the mountains and streams. Little did I know, we did find it. We just didn't know it at the time. It was right here near Barton Knob. Today, using the map, we followed this road all the way to Cass Railroad, which is just a few miles from Snowshoe. It took quite a while, but it was a lot of fun. The area surrounding Barton Knob, the area you're seeing now, was a strip mine prior to its acquisition by Monongahela National Forest back in 1986 when you and your parents were rocking that mullet. These days, the National Forest is conducting experiments to find out the best way to restore nutrients to the soil and restore the area that was mined back to nature. I believe that within my lifetime, this place is going to be a tourism hotspot, but right now it hasn't found its core audience. Being here is like seeing your favorite artist before he or she is discovered by the mainstream crowd, and I love it. At one point, Carolyn and I drove 4 hours without passing a single car or truck. Not one. But it can't stay this way. People give West Virginia a hard time. And to be fair, West Virginians give West Virginia a hard time. But there's an explosion of growth coming to this region. I just hope Carolyn and I get to explore a little longer before that happens. Okay, real quick. It occurred to me while editing this video that occasionally people want specific details about these back roads. So here it goes. You can access Barton Knob via West Virginia Highway 250. To get to 250, use Google Maps or whatever you kids are using these days. That being said, don't rely on your cell service in West Virginia for navigation. Anyway, 227 is just off 250. Follow 227 to 233, lock in the four-wheel drive, or make sure your AAA is paid up. Then cross Cheat Bridge, and you're on 235. 235 will take you all the way to 1, which leads to Cass Railroad. If you're a local, this isn't a big deal, and you're probably wondering why on earth anyone would want to take this route from Barton Knob to Cass, but that's the entire point of this video, and a lot of my videos for that matter. This route is amazing, and there are people all over the world that would love to experience a drive like this, and sadly, they don't realize roads like this exist anymore. Here's a side note within a side note. You can take this side road all the way to Snowshoe Ski Resort. I wouldn't try it in the winter unless you're driving a tank, and you have a platoon of engineers with you. But from 235, you can access 267. Carolyn and I stayed on 235, and we regretted this decision because 267 looks pretty amazing. Back in the spring, while visiting Snowshoe, Carolyn and I were on 267, but the road conditions made it impossible to continue. That was somewhere in this area. The problem with exploring this route is not knowing much about the backside of Snowshoe. There's some development in this area, and getting information isn't easy. Also, 235 and 267 are closed occasionally, so it's hard to make plans. Hey, if you're from this area, tell us what you know in the comments.
I'm all for coal. Coal is good. I think I'm still recording.